Good evening. Wow, what a night. I would like to start by mentioning a quote by a giant of Judaism. If you do not help a man when he troubles, it is equivalent to bringing troubles to him. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. In my eyes, this quote sums up the lifelong mission and combat of our next honoree. A man that doesn't need an introduction. Bernard-Henri Lévy, throughout his life, strives to honor the most sacred Jewish tradition, one that is directed to repairing the world and improving human condition. He is the ultimate high priest of Tikkun Olam. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce you to my friend Bernard-Henri Lévy.
Thank you, my dear friend Ron Agam. Thank all of you. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. I'm very moved and proud and honored to receive this award, first of all, on behalf of my dear and beloved Elie Wiesel, under the umbrella of this great voice of Judaism. I cannot forget, in 1977, nearly 40 years ago, when I first came to New York with my very first book, Barbarity with a Human Face, I was introduced here. I was godfathered, I was blessed by two men, 1977. One is here, is Marty Peretz, and the other one is not here tonight, but I want to pay homage to him. It is Elie Wiesel. You cannot imagine what it meant for a young Jew of my generation to be blessed by Elie Wiesel. He was not only a Jewish voice, he was a Jewish voice coming out of the ruins. He was a Jewish voice living the experience of reinventing Judaism. And not any Judaism, a Judaism who went through tears, sorrow, mourning, hell, but who went out of all that with pride and positivity. Elie Wiesel, for me, since 40 years, until today, the strong Elie Wiesel whom I know is a Elie Wiesel who has been touched by the terrible storm of the worst, but who has taken out of that this great pride which is at the core of the Jewish message. So I'm very proud and moved to be honored under his umbrella. I'm very proud also and moved to receive this award in this city, in New York City. I must tell you that this morning, a few hours ago, I was invited by Rabbi Arthur Schneier in his synagogue, the East Park Synagogue. He very kindly asked me to come on Friday, on Shabbat evening, to address the people of the synagogue, next Friday. But before that, he asked me if I had a little message to address to the children who were there. There was in the synagogue of Rabbi Arthur Schneier this morning, as probably every morning at this time, maybe 100 proud, bright, handsome Jewish kids. And he surprised me by asking me to address this message, so I spoke with my heart. And I told these children that they had to be proud to be American, because to be American and Jews, or Jewish Americans, or American Jews, because 1 century ago, 1 century and something, when the first plague of anti-Semitism wiped out Europe and Russia, America was a home for all these Jews prosecuted by pogroms and anti-Semitism. America was their natural home. When the plague came again in the 30s and in the 40s, in the dark ages of Nazism, again, America was a natural home, opening its arms and embracing so many Jews who escaped, like Elie Wiesel, who escaped hell thanks to America. And I said to these children of the Park East Synagogue this morning that if the storm had to come again, if the dark ages had to return, which is not sure, because we, French and European Jews, are battling, because the republics in Europe are battling with us, because the French Republic, compared to the French institution at the time of the Dreyfus Affair or in the 30s, is with the Jews today, completely. But if the dark times had to come again, I said to these children, and I want to say it tonight again, that the Jews of Europe would have two fatherlands, Israel, of course, but again, America. And by the way, all our enemies, the jihadists, the fascists, the populists, know that. With their terrible and demoniac, satanic intelligence, they know from the first day, since the birth of America, that there is this special link between America and Judaism. The French extreme rightist writers of the 30s never said New York. They said Jew York. Jew York. Bernanos, Drummond, and others, they said Jew York. So they know that there is this secular contract, this pact of blood between this city and world Jewry. And they know that anti-Americanism and anti-Semitism, the hatred of America and the hatred of the Jews, might be and are often some sort of twins. For this second reason, I'm very happy, very moved, very honored to be here tonight and to receive this prestigious award. I'm very happy also to receive an award entitled Warrior for the Truth. It is not the formula, Warrior for the Truth, is not, when you think thoroughly about it, is not so evident. It might sound as an oxymoron at the end of the day if you listen to the old philosophical tradition, the Greek philosophy, sometimes the German philosophy. You have the feeling that truth is so evident, that truth is so clear, truth has such a strength by itself that you don't have to battle for it, that it imposes itself by its own force. But the Algemeiner chose to name this prize the Warrior for Truth, because you know probably that in the Jewish tradition there is exactly the opposite sense. There is one word in Hebrew which all those here who are familiar with Talmud know. Milhama shel Torah. Milhama shel Torah, which means literally that the study of the Torah is a battle, is a combat, is a fight between friends, or a fight between men or women who enter in the room of the commentary of the study as maybe enemies, but who will go out of it embracing themselves and as brothers. But it is a sort of battle. All those who know a little about Talmud know so well how difficult, how conflictual is the study for the truth. Churchill, Mr. Minister, Michael Gove, I like so much your remarks. When Churchill said about sweat and tears, he spoke about the great policy of England, but he might have spoken about the experience of a proud, affirmative, strong and true Jew when he enters in a house of study to try to find the truth. The truth is not, I'm sorry, my dear friend Charlie Rose, you honor us so much tonight, is not a path of roses. The research of truth is never a path of roses. It is a path with so many difficulties and fights. So, Warrior for Truth is really a Jewish paradigm. And it is a Jewish paradigm and a Jewish formula even more when you think of the other war, not the war between friends, not the war for truth between those who share the same taste and love of the text and of the Torah, but when you think about the relationship with the enemy, with Amalek, you have so many texts. In the Talmudic tradition, you have so many texts, for example, in the work of Nachman de Braslav, which was quoted by my friend Ron Agam, who say that the relationship with Amalek is a fight for truth, is a battle for truth. It is a war on a stage in a battlefield, which stake is the truth. So the research of truth is such a battle, and I am so happy that you named it like that, and so honored to receive it. I am honored to, one last remark, honored to receive it from, at the end of the day, a newspaper, a magazine, I don't know how to name it, an outlet. Because who is Amalek today? What is the face of Amalek today? Amalek is everywhere, of course, but especially in the minds and in the body of the anti-Semites, the anti-Semitism. And when people ask me in my country, but also everywhere, what to do against anti-Semitism, how to reply to anti-Semitism, how to resist to this wave, which has not won at all, but which could win at the end, how to reply, I used to say that the only reply is a battle for truth, because anti-Semitism of today relies on 3 lies, is supported by 3 counter-truths. And against these lies, there is nothing else than the work of the truth, than the battle of the truth. Lie number 1 about Israel. There is no anti-Semitism today, no possible anti-Semitism without a demonization, a delegitimation of the state of Israel. So the battle for truth is to recall on and on that Israel is not only the only democracy of the area, but that it is an exemplary democracy in general. A democracy who faces, for example, a state of emergency, not since 6 months like us French, not since 15 years as you Americans, but since 68 years, which means since the very first day of its birth, and who nevertheless never resigned one of its republican and democratic values. This has to be said on and on. It is a battle for truth. The second pillar of the new anti-Semitism is the denial of Holocaust. The second pillar consists in sketching, depicting the Jews of today as the authors of a huge invention or exaggeration, which is the Holocaust. Again, in front of this lie, in front of this scandal, which is the denial of Holocaust and which is spreading, alas, as Minister Michael Gove said, all over Europe and all over the world, there is a battle for truth which has to be waged on and on to recall not only that the Holocaust existed, of course, but to recall on and on the singularity, the peculiarity, why, in which precise sense Holocaust is an unprecedented crime in the history of humanity. This has to be recalled on and on. And the third pillar of the new anti-Semitism, the third weapon of the Amalek of today, the third weapon in his artillery of Amalek today, is to pretend that if you worship too much the suffering of the Jews of yesterday, of before yesterday, or of today, you become deaf and blind to the sufferings of other peoples. The truth, which has to be pleaded, which has to be the object of a battle, is that it is the exact opposite. The truth is that it is when you have in your mind, in your heart, in your nerves, the memory of the Holocaust that you are aware, sensitive to the murders which occur today. And again, to come back to my experience this morning with Arthur Shire at the East Park Synagogue, I was so moved when he gave me this morning the text of his message, of his address to the survivors of the massacre of Srebrenica 20 years ago. One of the most prominent rabbis of New York, one of the most wisest Jews all over, standing in Srebrenica, in front of Muslims, and starting from his experience of an Holocaust survivor, stemming from his own memory and mourning of survivor of Holocaust, addressing a message of solidarity, of brotherhood, and of truth to a Muslim population touched by the wind, the storm of the beast. This is a great proof against Amalek. This is again a great battle which has to be waged on and on. And when I say that I am happy to receive this award from the Algemeiner, it is because I know that these three battles against anti-Zionism, against denial of Holocaust, and against the false and stupid topic of the so-called competitions of victims, these three battles are waged more than anyone in this country, as far as I know, in the Algemeiner. Last and not least, I like your title. I like that Gershon Jacobson, the father of Simon Jacobson, decided nearly 1 century ago to name his magazine like this. He could have named it Jewish something, Jewish Sun, Jewish Journal, Jewish Times, whatever. He decided to name it Algemeiner, which I'm not a German speaker. As you can hear, I'm not really an English speaker, but it is even worse in German. But I know at least what Algemeiner means. Algemeiner in German, therefore Yiddish, or Yiddish, therefore German, means universality. It means that your father built a journal which you are constructing now with the help of your team and especially of David Efun, which addresses from a Jewish point of view to the humanity in general. And I love this idea. For me, what would the Jews do? Why would they be on earth if it were not to address the rest of humanity? There is a word in the Torah which had a great commentary by Rabbi Nachman de Braslav, who says that to read the Torah consists in doing as if every verse had 70 faces. Every verse of the Torah has to be considered as having 70 faces, visage. 70, not 12, not whatever, 70, which is the number of the nations. The wealth of Judaism, the real force of the Jews, the real glory of the Jews beyond the secular glories, beyond the glories which some of you, of us, might embody a little spark of it. The real glory of the Jews is to address humanity, is to do as if the message, the Torah, had as many faces as there is nation in this world. I love this idea. I love that the Algemeiner embraced it. And I would like to say long life to Algemeiner, but as again Rabbi Nachman of Braslav said, it is forbidden to get old. So you, Algemeiner, we readers of Algemeiner, we will never get old. Thank you. You want to hold it?